Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rebecca Sheffield. Welcome back to another episode of the It's My Job podcast. Can you believe this is episode 10? That's 10 awesome episodes about the careers of people who are blind or visually impaired. Our podcast features student interviewers talking with adults who are blind or visually impaired, investigating important questions like how they use technology and how they connect with other people. Our interviews were designed by students for students. Stay tuned after the podcast to learn how to get involved. And in today's episode, stay tuned for 2 special requests. And please share with your friends and teachers so they can listen too. Now for today's interview. In this episode, Mohammed, a student in the U.S. Virgin Islands, is returning for his 4th interview. Today, he's interviewing Dr. Kirk Adams. Dr. Adams is the President and Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, of the American Foundation for the Blind, also known as AFB, a nonprofit organization that is working to expand possibilities for people with vision loss. You can follow AFB on Twitter at AFB1921. You can also find them on Facebook and LinkedIn. Just search for the American Foundation for the Blind. And check out their website at afb.org. Let's listen to the interview.
So what schools have you been to in your life?
Well, the first school I went to was a school for blind children. It was the Oregon State School for the Blind. Oregon is one of the states in the United States that's on the west coast along the Pacific Ocean. So my retinas detached when I was 5 years old, so I became totally blind very quickly. And I went to the Oregon State School for the Blind for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grades, and I learned how to read and write Braille. I used the slate and stylus and the Perkins Brailler. I learned how to use the long white cane. Learned how to type on a typewriter so that I could start public school when I was ready. So in 4th grade, I started public school in a small town in the state of Oregon. And for 4th grade, I went to Eugene Field Elementary, and Eugene Field was a poet. And then I went to Robert Frost, who was a poet. And then I went to Mark Twain Junior High. He wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So in that town, all the schools were named for writers. And then I went to Silverton High School, Silverton, Oregon, for 9th grade and 10th grade. And then we moved to Washington State, and I went to Snohomish High School in a little town called Snohomish, Washington, in the state of Washington, for 11th and 12th grade. And then I went off to college. A lot of schools, Mohammed. I'm not done yet. Went to Whitman College, which is in Walla Walla, Washington, and went there for 4 years and earned a degree. And then about 15 years later, I went to Seattle University in Seattle, Washington, and earned a master's degree. And then most recently, I attended Antioch University, which is based in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and that's where I earned my doctorate. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. School for the Blind, Eugene Field, Robert Frost, Mark Twain, Silverton, Snohomish, Whitman, Seattle U, Antioch. 9 schools.
That was interesting. Have you been blind your whole life?
No, I haven't. I was born sighted, and for the first 5 years, I could see, and then both of my retinas and my eyes detached, and I became blind very quickly when I was 5 years old. And now I'm 58, so I've been blind for 53 years.
What technology did you learn?
Well, as I mentioned before, when I first started, it was the simple as a slate and stylus was the first tool I learned how to write Braille with the slate and stylus, and then a Perkins Brailler. I learned how to type on a typewriter so that I could type my assignments when I went to public school for the teachers who didn't read Braille. I learned how to use the long white cane. Other technologies would be the talking book machine. When I first got talking books when I was a child, they were records, phonograph records. And then later, talking books came out on cassette tapes, so I learned how to use those machines. My first Braille device was called a Versa Braille, a refreshable Braille display, and it had the information was stored on a cassette tape. And I've learned to use many different kinds of Braille note takers. I've had a PackMate, a Braille Light. Right now I have a Braille Sense. I use JAWS, screen reading software. I have an 80-character Braille display for my PC. I've used a Victor Stream in the past. I've used technology called IRA, where you can have a sighted person talk to you using your camera on your phone, and they can give you some visual information if you need it. So lots of different technologies.
What is Braille Sense?
Braille Sense is a Braille note taker. It's made in South Korea by a company called HIMS, H-I-M-S. So it's got a refreshable Braille display. It's Android-based, so it's based on the Android operating system, which is a Google product. So it's got all the Google tools in it. It's got Bluetooth that connects to the internet, so I can do email, and you can download apps like you would download an app onto your phone. And so I'm able to use this device for lots of different things. I can download books from Bookshare and read them in Braille. I can go on Facebook. I can use Netflix. So it's a great device. And it's got 32 Braille characters at a time. And then it's refreshable. So you push a button and the next 32 characters pop up and you read those, and push a button, the next 32 characters pop up and you read those.
I see. Are you a fan of Braille?
I am a huge fan of Braille. I read Braille every day. I carry Braille around with me all the time in my briefcase. I read Braille magazines. I read Braille books. I use Braille for work. I've got lots and lots of Braille around me all the time. It's fabulous. What about you?
I'm not a fan of
Are you
Braille.
a fan of Braille?
No.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
Uh-oh. I'm going to have to work on that. But you're reading the questions in Braille right now?
Yes.
Okay.
On to the next question. Are you interested in music?
Yes, I am. I enjoy listening to music mostly. I studied piano for about 8 years when I was younger. So I know music. I know how music is put together, the scales, the chords. I have many hundreds of CDs that I like to listen to. I like to go to see live bands. My wife and I particularly like rhythm and blues music, soul music, reggae music in particular. So we almost always have music on in our house. So we like to have music playing all the time.
How were you chosen as the CEO in the American Foundation for the Blind?
I was chosen by a group called our Board of Directors. So the American Foundation for the Blind, which we call AFB, is a nonprofit, a non-governmental organization, an NGO. And there's a group of people who volunteer their time to meet regularly and to lead the organization. And it's their job to hire what's called the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer. And that's the person who manages the organization. And the board of directors hired a company to help them find the right person to be the CEO. And they put out a notice and asked for people to apply, to send in a job application. And I did that. And then they looked at all of the job applications and selected some people that they thought could do the job well. And then they called each person on the phone and talked to them on the phone for an hour or so. And then from the group of people they talked to on the phone, they picked 3 people. And they had people fly to New York City. I flew from Seattle, Washington to New York City, which is about 3,000 miles. And then we had interviews. I was in a nice room with a big long table, and there were about 8 or 10 people who asked me questions, and we talked about my experiences and the things I know and how I would do the job, my thoughts on the job. And then after that, there was a number of other interviews with smaller groups of people. So it was quite a long process. It took about 3 months before they made their decision and decided that I was the right person and gave me the opportunity to come to AFB.
Yes, that must be hard.
It was.
Are you a cane traveler or a guide dog traveler?
I am a cane traveler, and I think mostly because I was taught how to use the cane when I was 6 years old, and I got to be very comfortable using the cane, and it's always worked well for me. So I definitely use the cane every day.
Every single person I interviewed uses a cane.
Huh, no guide dog users yet, huh?
No,
Do you want to be a guide dog user?
no, I'm a cane traveler.
No. Okay, sounds good.
Do you like swimming?
I do like swimming. When I was a little boy, my parents would often take us to the lake or the river. We lived in a place where there was lots of water, the ocean. So I learned how to swim very, very early on, and I enjoy swimming very much, and I especially like to swim in the ocean if it's warm, like in Hawaii or Mexico or the Bahamas, or probably where you live. The water's probably pretty warm. How about you? Are you a swimmer?
No, I don't know how to swim yet.
No, it's fun.
I can see that. What is your favorite thing about being a chief executive officer? Or shorter known as CEO?
I think in my case, because I'm the CEO of the American Foundation for the Blind, is just the fact that I get to meet so many really interesting blind people who are doing so many interesting and wonderful things. So I have the opportunity to talk to people, find out about how they have lived their lives, what they're interested in, what they're doing. So I've talked to blind people who are computer scientists and chemists and musicians and teachers and lawyers. I know a blind woman who is a scientist who works for NASA, which is to do with taking people into outer space. Talked to a blind person who's a sound engineer who does work to make music, recordings of music. So there's so many blind people doing so many interesting things and being so successful in living their lives to the fullest in the way they want to live. So for me, that's probably the greatest thing, is that opportunity to get to know so many great blind people.
NASA is real?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
The
thought it was
National Aeronautic and
I thought
Space
it was
Administration.
I thought it was just in a movie.
Nope. It's a real deal. It's pretty close to here. I live in Virginia, next to Washington, D.C., and NASA is on the other side of D.C. in Maryland. And I know a blind woman, African-American woman, who's a scientist there, and she's blind.
How did you get your PhD?
Well, it took me about 8 years, so it took me a long time because I was working, so I needed to do my schoolwork in the times when I wasn't working. And I went to a number of classes. There were teachers, professors who gave talks, and I listened to those. And then we wrote a number of papers on different topics. And there were 12 pretty big, long papers that had to be written. That took over the course of about 3 years. And then to finish the PhD, you do research. So I wanted to find out about blind people who worked in big companies and were successful. So I got to interview a number of blind people who were working in various jobs, find out how they got their job, how the technology was working for them, any challenges they had. And then after I talked to everybody, I had the interviews and I got them transcribed. So I had Braille pages that laid out what everything we said was written out. And then I was able to read through that and see what was similar about each person's story, what was different. And I wrote about that. And then I had to go to a classroom and stand in front of a group of people and explain my research and explain what I'd written. And they asked me a bunch of questions that I had to answer. And then they said, "Congratulations, Dr. Adams." So that was that.
Pretty sure that was fun.
It was fun.
Great. Now let's flip the interview and let Dr. Adams ask Mohammed some questions.
So Mohammed, first question I want to ask is what is your favorite food?
Basically rice, chicken, just basic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of rice myself. We have a rice cooker and we make a pot of rice every day, pretty much.
Speaking of cooking, do you cook?
I do. I cook often. I'm making collard greens this evening with jalapeno peppers and vinegar. They're going to be delicious. How about you? Do you enjoy music?
Yes, I enjoy music. Any music. As long as there are no bad words in it, then it's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm also interested in cars. Ask me anything I know about it.
What's your dream car? If you could have any car, what would you want to have?
I'm going to have a drive.
Yeah. Perfect. Do you know what kind you want?
It's a Mercedes-Benz.
Nice. Good choice.
If you ever come down and see probably a black Mercedes-Benz, then probably wondering, who's that? Well, you're going to find out soon enough.
It's going to be you with your driver.
Yep.
Riding in the back, listening to music, getting driven around. Sounds pretty good.
I would also like to thank you for joining us today for this interview.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Hi, it's Dr. Sheffield again. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the It's My Job podcast. What did you think? Do you like cooking, music, and swimming like Dr. Adams? Are you into cars like Mohammed? Maybe you're interested in leading a big organization as the president and CEO someday. We'd love to hear from you. And I have 2 special favors to ask for this episode. As you might have guessed, I've been Mohammed's teacher in the U.S. Virgin Islands for a couple of years. Like many students this year, Mohammed worked very hard but didn't get to celebrate the end of his 6th grade year with all of his friends. I'm so proud of him and of all my students on the island of St. Thomas for all they've accomplished. If you're a student who just finished up the school year, please give yourself a big hug and pat on the back on behalf of all of us teachers who wish we could be celebrating with you. And here's the second favor. In this episode, you probably heard Mohammed tell Dr. Adams that he's not a big fan of Braille. As Mohammed's teacher, I know how hard Mohammed is working to learn Braille. Could you do us a huge favor and share with Mohammed a suggestion or some advice about how to make reading Braille more fun? Or maybe share why learning Braille has been important for you? You can share your thoughts by phone or email, and I'll be sure to pass them along to Mohammed. Our phone number is 202-688-5044. That's 202-688-5044. Outside the United States, you may need to dial +1 or 1 in your international access code. Be sure to check with your parents first. You can call us and leave us a voicemail, or you can send us a text message. Our email address is askitsmyjob@gmail.com. So askitsmyjob@gmail.com. No spaces and no apostrophe. If we get some great advice or stories about Braille, we'll try and read them in a future podcast. Are you new to the It's My Job podcast? If so, welcome. We want you to know that you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Ask It's My Job. Each of our episodes is also on the Perkins Paths to Technology blog. Check us out and leave us a comment at perkinselearning.org/technology. And finally, we have a YouTube channel called It's My Job, where you'll find all of our podcasts. If you missed episode 9, head over to YouTube to hear what Christian learned from Grant about his work as a reporter for Accessible Media. This was our 10th episode, and we want to make many more, but we need your help. If you're a student who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be an interviewer on a future episode, please have your teacher or parent contact us via phone, email, or Facebook page, and we'll get you matched up with an interviewee. If you're an adult who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be interviewed, please send us a message via email, phone, or Facebook, and we'll get back to you. Once again, our phone number for text messages and voicemail is 202-688-5044. Our email address is askitsmyjob@gmail.com. We have a lot to be thankful for in this episode. Thanks to Mohammed for a great interview, and to Dr. Adams for sharing his time as our interviewee. This interview was facilitated by me, Rebecca Sheffield. Thanks to Perkins Past Technology for the blog posts. Our music is from purpleplanet.com. And with so many of us working and studying from home, we hope this podcast is becoming a great opportunity to learn from each other and increase awareness about all the amazing jobs that are being done by people who are blind or visually impaired. Have a wonderful day.